I've had to scrap this intro 50 times already, mostly due to the developments of this little story in the middle of me writing, so I'm gonna try and make it quick here. Suzy Doodletones is a now 28-year-old slideshow commentary YouTuber who has been around since the early days of commentary. 2011 is the latest I could put it. Commentary wasn't always what it used to be. Back then, it was mainly people arguing over cartoons or complaining about a fucking undercooked burger that they had at Wendy's. Simpler times. But I would say even for what it was, Doodletones was out there. She was one of the first few who pioneered the SEC community, at least from what I can see. For one, she would put more effort than most did, like having a looping background GIF and music. Like I said, simpler times. She was also one of the first few to actually draw out character stills for her commentary, to give more life to her video, make it stand out.
Are you fucking for real? There's only the human race. Great logic. I guess I can call black people
What?
race.
What?
Unfortunately, for Suzy, that is where my compliments end, because for every nice thing that she did, it's always couched with 20 other things that are either retarded or downright vile. Her whole 14 years being online is rife with controversies, and that is more or less the point of this video, to catalog the bigger ones and hopefully show why this disgusting insect deserved to fly into the light, so to speak. Or so we thought. We'll learn about how Suzy lied about her diaper fetish to distract from her more worrisome proclivities, about how she would partake in multiple cover-ups in her community to protect herself as well as actual pedophiles, why she ended up deleting her entire YouTube channel by accident, and in regards to recent events, how her defenses of certain creeps might have been the result of a guilty conscience, to put it lightly. This is a story of a house of cards that stood longer than it ever should have. This is Doodletones. So, reading that title, you're probably one of three schools of thought. Why start with this drama over the more recent? Hasn't this situation already been thoroughly exhausted? Or, what the fuck is a diaper jihad? The surface level take of this drama is, haha, Doodletones has a diaper kink, isn't that weird and gross? When digging beyond, you'll find that Doodles didn't just have a diaper kink. There was way more to the story than anybody initially thought, and I think not only is it convenient to start with, given it chronologically makes sense, but it also sheds new light on the situation for old heads to chew on. Spoiler, she's not exactly a pedophile. What she is whatever the fuck rides a fine line between that and a harmless degenerate. You'll see what I mean. Doodletones' first break into the niche limelight of commentary came in the form of Kink Shaming Isn't My Fetish, posted in June of 2016. This was a call-out video on Mr. Medicare. Now, if I had to explain who Medicare is, this video would have like an extra fucking hour slapped onto it. If you don't know, June the King made a good breakdown. But in the simplest terms, he's an internet troll, a shit stirrer. In 2016, Medicare had just started a series called Deviants, wherein he went through popular DeviantArt tags and laughed at the weird fetish art that would pop up. Was it mean? Yeah, it was mean, but it never went as far as actually harassing people in real life. At most, people's profiles would get like a few mean comments, the user would delete those comments, and everyone would like move on in a week. Somehow, this series would end up sparking a nearly year-long campaign to dox and deplatform Medicare. And ironically enough, it came from the ABDL community. In case you don't know, ABDL stands for Adult Baby Diaper Lover.
What the fuck?
And you know, like at some point you have to wonder what happened to having a hobby. Like, I don't know, why can't these people ever get into like knitting or juggling? What? Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. Jokes aside, I don't give a fuck if people want to shit their diapers, so long as it's all above board, you know, consent and whatnot. Who cares? Just don't post about it publicly online if you don't want to get made fun of for it. Case in point, Doodletones' video was essentially calling out Medicare for inciting a lynch mob against DeviantArt fetishists.
I'm talking about a very special kind of inflation that's only found in the minds of degenerate motherfuckers.
Degenerate. Having lost the physical, mental, or more already, you're showing me how much you are ready to mock people just because they love the idea of being inflated like a balloon.
39,008 results for inflation.
Actually, with the safe filter on, I mean, it's their kink after all, not yours. And you going out of your way to find this, to hassle them for this stuff, is almost borderline harassment, Jim.
Don't post about it publicly online if you don't want to get made fun of for it.
Jim, it's funny how you're trash-talking inflation because you're clearly into inflating your ego.
I'm sure they would enjoy the positive feedback from you.
Fuck you. You are actively telling your viewers, hey, go harass this kid who basically draws inflation because I don't like it. This isn't a term I throw around lightly, but you are starting a lynch mob.
I mean, yeah, this video fucking sucks in a variety of ways. But one interesting thing to note is this comment about what Doodles thinks about fetishes.
What is my sexuality? I consider myself to be asexual, as sex, I guess you could say, kind of disgusts me to a certain extent, or rather the idea of having it turns me away. However, fetishes are things that infinitely fascinate me, as I find it to be interesting to see where the weird of the world begins and how far it goes.
Asexual, because the idea of sex turns me away. Huh. Well, this is going to be a very, interesting statement to contend with in the coming moments, particularly within Medicre's response, wherein he finds something, kind of funny.
What other reasons would Doodletones have had to make a commentary on my video? I mean, they seemed a little bit upset. They needed to call me out. It's something that's gone on far too long. It's a lynch mob. What could possibly... Oh, wait. Regarding the sudden censors. From Doodletones. So, I'm moving accounts. Why? Because my grandmother thinks I have a mental illness and doesn't realize some of the stuff I post online. Maybe for fun. What could possibly have made your grandmother think you have a mental illness? Oh, maybe it's... Is it that? ABDL? Adult Baby Diaper Lover Role-Playing Group? Doodletones, or should I call you by your proper name? Doodle Diapers. Doodle Diapers, do you get off on shitting yourself?
So, Grandma found the poop sock, and now I'm outed as a sexual degenerate to my closest friends and family. A Shakespearean tragedy as old as time. The rest of Medicre's video goes into mocking the SEC Defense Squadron that was deployed to protect Suzy. You could say they stacked the wall of Pampers to absorb the impact, but I digress. To her credit, she wasn't responsible for the false flagging and doxing campaign. She never really had this way to get away with something like that at the time. This drama springboarded into that when Medicre inevitably made an episode on ABDL wherein Toddler Girl weaponized her massive following into doing that.
And you know what else is massive?
That's generally where most people's knowledge on the Doodles Diaper Dilemma stops, and while it does take a bit for things to become interesting, in November of 2018, she made a response video to some DeviantArt post shitting on her. A video, I think, reveals a lot about her character in hindsight. At first, I was just going to give a TLDR of the points brought up, but I want you to hear how she explains this at the time, knowing that she's fucking lying. Also, I want an excuse to ape her bit.
Doodle denies having a diaper fetish, even though the evidence is written in stone. Ahem Mr. Meadow Coors Hug Box Chronicles Episode 7.
Alright, so let's go back down this alleyway as much as I don't want to. To have a fetish in the way that Jim was accusing me, he'd have to prove that I am sexually aroused at the idea of wearing diapers, which he can't.
He can. He just didn't. Bringing up the detail of you being in an ABDL group was enough to mock you for it, and that's just what he did. If Jim wanted to prove that you had a diaper fetish, all he would have to do is go to your gallery and scroll all the way down to this shit that I can't show without the video getting goat seed wide open for the automod to slam its cock into. Believe me, trust me, it's a bunch of diaper fetishy bullshit. And she would even later go on to admit that it is diaper fetishy bullshit.
Kill me.
There are also other things in there too.
But that's a different plate of cookies for a different glass of milk.
He did provide evidence that I was in an ABDL roleplay group, but that on its own doesn't prove that I was active in it, much less am turned on to the idea. Oh, but if you're in the group, then you must like it enough to get off to it, I hear the peanut gallery saying. To that I say, no, not inherently. Especially when even in the video I explain that fetishism fascinates me infinitely.
It's interesting. Oh, it's just interesting. Haha, it's so funny, guys. Anybody ever heard of the cautionary tale of Yoshi eggs? Yoshi eggs is in reference to a 4chan guy who made a thread about wanting to see more images of Yoshi shitting out eggs because he thinks it's funny. Fascinating, if you will. Oh, wow. The shitty diapers are fascinating, eh, Doodle? Apparently, it was too fascinating because she would get kicked out of role-playing groups for incessantly trying to get them to engage in her diaper fetish. I shit you not. She would, spring this onto people without any warning, even when they told her not to do it. It's diabolical.
I have to break your neck. It's just the way it is. I'm in
a Mega Man fan group, despite the fact that I've gone on record saying that I've barely played a single game. I just like the art and think the community is interesting. Point is, you can join a group without being active in it, so this evidence written in stone that Medicre plastered in his video is fairly flimsy at best, to be honest, and it doesn't prove that I have a diaper fetish. Now, other people brought to the table extra evidence to give an argument, and while I know the truth and that I don't, other people seem to think otherwise, and I do understand that there's now an argument to be had, so I don't vehemently argue with it nearly as much as I used to, you know.
What the fuck? I mean, I know what she's referring to, but like, what a fucking ominous statement. Other people brought extra evidence. I do now understand there is an argument to be had. Like, if you were a Doodletones fan at this point in time, hearing this statement, how do you not, like, get confused? Like, dumbass, did you not just argue that this shit wasn't a fetish? What do you mean people brought extra evidence and that you see the point? What, like, what the fuck does that mean?
Let people believe what they want to believe at this point. Regardless, you need to get your head out of 2016 and join us in the present day.
Oh, okay. Just, you know, let people believe what they want to believe. Lol. Okay, sure. Doodletones also made another video a year later, basically reiterating the same thing she said in her video, except in response to a Twitter thread. It's pretty worthless. However, one name does get mentioned in her last video that I feel is due some flowers. Dylan Thomas. Please don't be a freak. Please don't be a freak. Please don't. Fuck!
There's drama?
At one point, Dylan was friends with Doodletones.
Uh-oh.
Jesse Pajamas was a friend of Dylan's that...
Look at this Five Nights at Freddy's ass fucking back.
So you're probably wondering what's the issue. Jesse has been accused of pedophilic activity.
Okay, well that's fucking great.
The problem is Dylan's coverage of it. But the most damning thing Dylan did in this video is he admitted that he knew that Jesse was a creep.
Okay, fuck you.
Possibly for years.
Fuck you! God, these people suck! Everyone sucks in this community!
Dylan was like a Doodletones cartographer. This guy went above and beyond archiving everything this bitch did on DA. So I did 2 streams going over this doc, a doc that he essentially had been working on since 2018. It's long as fuck, but if you want to know the specifics, I'll link the VOD. I can't actually link the doc because of the content within it. It's TOS and whatnot. I'm not going to go in depth about it, but essentially everything about her saying that it's not a kink is a fucking lie, right? She is also into transformation. Okay, well, whatever. Transgender, well, at least Chud Logic can't judge.
Hardcore, bukkake, cream pie, blacked, piss orgy.
Age regression.
Oh no.
Now, people have a lot of opinions about whether or not it's pedophilic for someone to age regress as a kink. I suppose it, you know, honestly, it really depends on how much someone's age regressing. Like, are they 40 and regressing to a 20-year-old? In the grand scheme of it all, it's morally up in the air, case-by-case basis. Why is he getting into this? Because it's my fucking video, bitch. That being said, Doodletones, for some fucking reason, decided to have an extensive public age regression diaper ERP, wherein she roleplayed as a fucking 8-year-old. Getting molested. Genuinely, this shit is not worth reading. It's actually fucking vile. And in case you have doubts, virtually everyone who reads this thread came out of it with the knowledge that God is dead. Even Doodletones' own friends couldn't sweep for this. Do note, though, that the character descriptor is that she can't be any physically older than 8. This will be important for later. Suzy's excuse was to blame the RP entirely on the Kirby guy she's talking to, despite the RPs not only being designed to be fetishistic, but that she always left the door open to be more explicit and even admits this in her video addressing this, among other things. More on that later. Trust me, this video fucking sucks. Moving along. Around 2019, Doodle would see a boost in viewership due to her networking among the ACC, or art commentary community. AKA, she was inserting herself into a lot of dramas at the time, not as a commenter, but as a collaborator. She acted as a henchman for larger ACC creators such as Ponder Sprocket, Nezzy Monster, He and Mitsuru, and Hopeless Peaches. What the fuck? Hopeless Peaches. Huh. Must be a bad omen. She was willing to throw herself onto any sword that dare point at her friends in the CC. Sometimes, even, maybe, perhaps, dabbled in a bit of opping, as we will soon see. I want to say between 2019 and 2024 is where we really see the gears on the total Doodle death machine start to turn. This is because of the sheer clusterfuck of drama that happened, wherein chronology starts to be more of a suggestion. So we're going to drive along this timeline, and I want you to ignore the flipped cars, smashed windows, and gang wars that are going on around this time. Later, we're basically going to jump everywhere in between the years of 2019 and 2024, so let's just get on to when Doodles was forced to addressing this roleplay. As referenced earlier, even Doodletones' own friends couldn't ignore this when brought to their attention. Madlibs was one of these people. So a Discord all these commentary people used to be in was getting ready to get leaked around the start of 2023. As a means of getting ahead of the shitstorm, Madlibs decides to dump everything that she knew what happened to the server, apologize in advance for not knowing anything about it, and essentially take her leave. Whoa, that's a little extreme for having a silly little Discord get leaked, I hear you saying.
The most merciful thing in the world is the inability of the human mind to correlate all of its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far.
One of these people to get tossed was Doodletones. Mad Libs had called out this diaper ERP, causing Suzy to have a tantrum. A tism storm, if you will.
The Tism report is back, folks.
In the form of addressing that roleplay one last time. She says one last time, but nobody caught the first time that she addressed that roleplay because it was basically tucked at the ass end of a 3-hour-long soapbox of every single failed creative project Doodletones has ever created. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them.
Anyways, in this video, she tries to reassert that it was diaper shit from a long time ago and that nobody should care about it.
Specifically mentioning that I called it diaper shit from 2014. But it's also holding me to a particularly pedantic complaint about something that's still true.
But it wasn't diaper shit, as you have already seen. It involved an 8-year-old. Oh wait, hold on, sorry. What was that, Doodle?
But specifically brings up a particular RP that I did when I roleplayed as a childlike character in 2015.
Oh, it was childlike. How can it be childlike if it can't be any older than 8, Suzy? And get this, you will fucking love the literal next line she says after this.
But I still did diaper-related fetishy shit in 2014 that people have taken issue with, so...
So, like... Remember when she denied it being a fetish? Dude, it like rolls off the tongue. It's too easy. How does your fucking head not explode from the cognitive dissonance? She denied this shit for years. And now, since people discovered the worst part of the lie, she casually admits she's into diapers as if this was always the case.
The purpose of this video is to compile the history of my involvement with weird fetishy stuff, specifically talk and address the roleplays that I did back then, explain how I got there and why, probably once again condemn younger me for getting involved in an environment that could have put me in danger, and put that shit out there for the upteenth billionth time because addressing this shit genuinely never ends and no one ever hears me address it. And I have addressed all of this shit in the past. Too many times to count, frankly.
Yeah, this video didn't address shit. Real quick, I want to point out something in that video that's kind of amusing. The TLDR is that she hand waves everything, finally recognizes all the ERP bullshit, writes it off as stress-induced, no elaboration. Oh yeah, and she also lies about her grandma for some reason. She says that her grandma became worried when she found the DeviantArt because of the Depresso vent art that she drew.
With this in mind, during 2015, my grandmother started picking up using a computer and wound up learning about how to specifically browse DeviantArt, and was told the name of mine and my little brother's accounts. And as you can probably guess by now, when she found my account, there was a lot of concerning red flags due to the stress levels I was having at the time, and from specifically my vent art from 2013, 2014, and even some in 2015, caused my grandmother to worry about me maybe having some sort of mental disorder.
When even in Medicare's video from way back in 2016, we can see that this is, like, not true. I don't even know why you would brazenly lie about this when the truth is so readily available. Force of habit, maybe. So with that being said, do you honestly fucking think she has genuinely compiled the history of her engagement with fetishes and gave an appropriate reason as to why she did not? She actually did not. She did not do that. I'd argue this time it's even more egregious of a lie, and it kind of makes me fucking mad if I'm being honest. Most of this video is basically Doodle jerking herself off as this struggling, self-righteous, ardent fetish defender, and that she accidentally found herself accessing fetish websites, ASMR, DA groups, RPs, all that shit, right? Keep note that all of this shit was prior to 2015. Doodletones was born in January of 1997, meaning she turned 18 in 2015. Doodles apparently got groomed into the diaper shit at 17 years old. Now, to be clear, she had sexual convos with a 28-year-old at the time and seemingly was in this weird pseudo-pedo age regression fucking polycule whatever thing. Sounds pretty fucked, right? And, you know, I'd agree. And it sucks that it happened. I mean, imagine that, getting groomed into a diaper king. I think I'd fucking kill myself. See, the problem is that me and the boys took a look at this timeline here, and See, not only was she already thoroughly engaged with the diaper fetish prior to being 17, shocking stuff, but she had already made a post on DeviantArt answering this exact question. What got you into diapers? And this was before she ever had any contact with this apparent groomer. Did I ever ask you about how you got interested in diapers before? Doodletones responds, don't think so, but to be honest, I don't really remember how exactly. I think this was when I was on warpmymind.com looking for hypnosis files to help me be more feminine and saw diaper files. From there, I remember reading about ABDLs and what they were. But wait, you said that she met her groomer when she was 17. Wasn't she 17 in 2014? By Doodles' own account, she met them in November of 2014.
We met November 22nd, 2014.
Yeah, 2 months from turning 18. The post I just read was from September. Now, grooming is a finicky word because most people assume only children can get groomed when this is not true. Even sexually speaking, adults can get groomed. Matter of fact, it happens all the time. People get coaxed into sexual situations they wouldn't have been in otherwise had it not have been for some rhetorical tricks, if you will. Obviously, kids getting groomed is worse because generally children don't possess the intellectual capabilities or life experience to avoid bad situations and make informed decisions for themselves. All of this to say is that she may have actually been groomed, but it was not into the diaper or age regression fetish as she would have you believe is the case. Matter of fact, Doodle, where exactly did you meet this person?
We then got onto the topic of diapers, as that was the circle that we met each other in.
Ah, I see. So she met the person who groomed her into the diaper age regression fetish in a diaper fetish group because it was a shared interest between them both. And this was just casually mentioned and not elaborated on further. She also quickly mentions an OC she created that was in response to her being groomed by this person. Put air quotes.
Would you like to know that I made an OC based on our interactions? I have a little bunny girl myself that some people took issue with in 2018 because of the questionable themes. And that was literally how I was groomed to envision myself.
This moment, I think, perfectly captures the level of deceptions of Doodletones. She has created this character that had apparently, as she put it, sparked some controversy due to problematic themes. She says she only did this because she got groomed into it, shows a screenshot, then runs along with the rest of the video. Just within that small time frame, she has been deceptive at multiple points. This is Mika. Mika is a 6-year-old. She has the brain of an 18-year-old, has both a humiliation fetish, a piss kink, as well as having a habit of getting distracted by boobs and penises because she is bisexual. Did I mention that this character was created explicitly for fetish RPs, if it wasn't obvious? Moving on from that, if we read the caption Doodle wrote for the screenshot of this conversation, this was in February, meaning she created this character when she was 18 years old. Now, I don't think a 28-year-old adult should be talking about their sexcapades with a 17-year-old. Don't get me wrong. But come the fuck on. This is just a blatant, unabashed manipulation tactic. And to use this situation of all things as some sort of get out of jail free card, please don't ask me about my diaper roleplay, is bullshit. And just to be clear, Suzy honestly didn't need to be held accountable for this. I think it's gross and concerning that the RP involves nasty shit with kids, but it's a far cry from being a child predator. I mean, I wouldn't be friends with her. I still think she shouldn't be in communities that have children in them, but it's to be on the safe side, not because I think she'll prey on them. This easily could have just been yeah, I did nasty shit like that in my teens. I didn't think it was a big deal. Now I see it's gross to sexualize children and I don't want to do that anymore. End of story. Or it would have been pretty funny to see her actually defend it. There's that angle too, I guess. But to lie about it, that's the part that bothers me, because then I have to ask, well, Suzy, what else are you hiding? So, we already established that she really likes to lie, but why does she lie? Well, because she would have trouble convincing everyone she's a moral arbiter otherwise. This upstanding individual who's there to set things straight in the community and reprimand any crooks that enter her crosshairs. Yeah, sure, she fucking lied about the diaper shit, but it's whatever, bro. She calls out predators in her community, dog. Only when she couldn't defend them. She would go as far as to try and cover up her involvement with freaks and weirdos by inserting herself into investigations as some sort of authority figure and try and steer any prying eyes away from herself and her friends, downplay their actions, and use other people as cannon fodder. What am I referring to? Really, multiple situations, but two of the more broader ones is the FCK and Doodletones' own Discord server, the Cloud Palace. We will be coming back to the Cloud Palace many times. The FCK was that server that I referenced earlier, the one with the leaks. What had happened in the FCK is a long story. Long enough that a 9-hour-long video exists on it, but that's besides the point. What's important to know about the FCK was that it started as a server for content creators in the ACC space to collaborate on videos, as well as gossip about individuals the community deemed villainous at the time. However, what the server ended up turning into was a hotbed for degeneracy. Everything I'm about to say doesn't cover a fraction of it, but the bullet points are important. If you want to know the full extent of the FCK, there's Akumu's 9-hour-long maxim, or you could harass Thuman into finishing her fucking video about it.
That's a joke, lads.
It all started in 2019 with calling out Madame, a Leafy clone. Justified video on them. Good. Madame had a fan called Slimmers. Slimmers was an artist who offered up her talents to draw stills, with the promise of a shout-out. Madame took and used the art, but never gave the shout-out. Slimmers makes a call-out post, and this whole situation blows up. 15-year-old Slimmers gets scammed by Madame as the headline, and one of the primary narratives being repeated was that an adult Madame was lying about and harassing a minor. I'm skipping the finer details, but the gist is what I'm giving you. A ton of ACC users start making videos on the matter. Slimmers is championed as a victim. Many channels blow up in subs and views as a result. The FCK is born in the process of this drama. The head of this server went by Toasty Vanilla, now Ruby Missile Launcher or Ruby Lighter Fluid. A very important figure to this situation, but rather tangential in regards to Doodle. That would not stop her, though, from initially trying to downplay what was going on. As this drama continues to bubble, an account by the name of Akumu pops up. Starts criticizing Slimmers for actions she's taken over the course of this situation, simply calling out points of hypocrisy in their little internet tiff. Despite his size at the time, Akumu was noticed by certain commentators and put on blast, which prompted members of the FCK to start going on the attack. Sometime around this point, Slimmers joins the FCK. The specific individuals don't matter right now, but just know a lot of ACC accounts were playing White Knight for Slimmers, and were not just dogging on Akumu, but also lying about him and his actions. He was a small account, politically incorrect and defenseless. This was what made him a prime target. Did I mention he too was a minor, virtually the same age as Slimmers? There's only like a year difference. This is important because not only was Slimmers' age a point of attack against Madame, how dare you attack this minor and whatnot, but the same people were unironically conducting slander campaigns as well as sexually harassing him. Yeah, just out in the open. Nobody apparently thought this was a smidge hypocritical, which ultimately reveals a more broader aspect about the ACC and SCC space that I want to touch on for just a few seconds. These people never cared about being right or consistent. It was all about views, attention, and clout. It didn't pay enough to be right. They lied because they knew most of their viewers were dumb, impressionable, and wouldn't notice what was happening right in front of them. All they had to do was give them the villain of the week. Food for thought anyways. And not to glaze Akumu, but over the course of this drama, he had a DM fight with one of the members of the FCK, and he had said to them,
"I'll make this entire community burn as a hobby."
And well, hop and a skip 5 more years later into 2024, and this entire fucking community is charred to shit.
But what about Doodletones?
In a minute!
What had happened was, as it turns out, Toasty Vanilla was a complete sex pest. He constantly sexually harassed users in the server, openly, regardless if they were minors. Some were as young as 12. But Toasty wasn't the only degenerate. Porn would be spammed, minors were talked to sexually, everyone active in the server had either witnessed it and did nothing, encouraged it, or actively participated in it. Suzy was one of the many who witnessed and did nothing. But because it's Suzy, she managed to make it slightly worse on her end. When these leaks started to come out, a sort of gay little Justice League was assembled in the Senate, Lyle Conway's old Discord server. And they were tasked with going over the server leaks and finding out what exactly happened in the server. One of these people was Suzy. And, I don't know about you, but someone who was an active member of this community and friends with many of the people inside of it just might be compromised. For some reason, she was just allowed to steer the investigation and assert herself as some sort of authority figure in this situation. Thankfully, unlike an actual corrupt police investigation, there were rogue investigators, people like Akumu and Laka who were on their own hunt for the truth. Over the course of this investigation, Nazi Monster, one of the loudest members of the FCK, that's what we call a double entendre,
They're friends with them!
was being called out for knowing what was going on. She, like a complete retard, leaked messages with Toasty in an attempt to show that she tried to help the situation long before it blew up, to clear her name and whatnot. See, but in those messages, it was revealed that Nazi Monster was keen on deleting the NSFW chat dedicated to Slimmers, who, mind you, was a minor at the time, for optics reasons. And that had only happened because another user was threatening to leak what was going on.
Ben the Looney draws a child porn and tries to defend it, making a video on him because he's gross. He's just a pedo. It was around this time that Nezzy Monster messaged Toasty Vanilla, telling him that he needed to remove the Slummers and SFW chat from the FCK server. 5:50 a.m. Nezzy says, Toasty, you need to remove Slummers' and SFW chat. I'm not in charge of that. You'll have to ask the admin. You're friends with the admin. I wouldn't really call me and him friends, but sure, I'll ask him. Just warning you guys, that could become an issue.
Oh yeah, and she also had attacked the minors who were giving their side of the FCK because they had named her as one of the adults who knew what was happening. So fuck her for that too. Nezzy was going to be confronted by Laka in a call, and because Suzy was friends with Nezzy, she essentially played lawyer. Laka, knowing that Suzy was also an active member, additionally had some questions for her, and, things did not go well for both Doodle and Nezzy here.
Do you remember everything that happened in the server? Just to verify and just so I can get an understanding of like how aware currently are you of the situation even prior to researching? Like how much did you remember?
So I remembered there was the Ben Looney stuff, and I remembered that Toasty did have kind of a bit of a sex pest streak. I did remember a little bit of that because I remember when they found out that I was trans, they centered on me not having bottom surgery and had posted like an image, something along the lines of, I didn't just drink cum for a guy.
Jesus Christ.
I only knew maybe 5 or 6 people in there at the time that I joined, so I didn't know anyone else. I especially didn't know the ages of very many people. In fact, out of everyone that I knew, you can see that there's a recurring pattern that everyone that I knew was over the age of 18. When I got in there and Toasty basically said that they just spam porn everywhere, I kind of just assumed that it was an 18+ server. Okay. I did not know anything beyond that point.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure of your awareness of the situation because I just want to verify things first. So you were aware that they were a sex pest. Yes. Beyond what happened, like, was there anything else you were aware of their behavior at the time? Like, were you aware of what was going on their channels, or no? Okay.
No. I had dipped in, like, May when I figured out that they were kind of being excessively weird around children.
Well,
I think that was around the time, I want to say that was around the time that Gal released their video.
Okay, so you dipped around that. When was this? Do you know the date?
I think. I stopped posting in there May 23rd, 2020.
You were aware of the posting, like you just said that. Why?
I think that was the reason I did it. But yes.
Oh, okay. If you think that was the reason, I have to ask, like, why was no further things done afterwards, if that was the reasoning? Because this is a question I do want to ask Nezzy as well. If you're aware of the children being harmed in that, like, being affected in that way.
Nezzy?
Like, no.
Nezzy did do stuff about it.
Oh, I know. But I'm asking, like, after you guys left, why wasn't anything further done? Because you guys are aware that this stuff can have effects on children. I'm wondering why wasn't...
The stuff that I heard about that Toasty was doing was in an entirely different chat.
Well, fair enough.
I wasn't in that chat.
Well, fair enough, but why didn't you do follow-ups and make sure that, like, you heard children possibly being harmed, why wasn't anything done to, stomp on that stuff?
I wasn't in the chat. Like,
well, no, I'm saying, like, why didn't you investigate into it? Investigate into it and talk about it. Like that.
What? Just go to Toasty and ask them, hey, we heard you're a potential fucking predator, like, can you give us access to your chat? Is that what you're asking?
Doodle? I'm gonna respectfully say this. If you heard there's a rumor of something bad happening going on in the community, you don't have to ask them directly. You could just say, can I just be let into your chat just to look around to verify things? Because this is concerning that this was happening for 4 years. And this apparently
No, hold on.
I wasn't saying on your end, Doodle. Doodle, I'm saying that these kids were affected for 4 years. I'm saying these kids were affected for 4 years. I'm asking on the basis. No, I'm not saying you did. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying.
No, that timestamp does not deceive you. Within 10 minutes of the call, Suzy's tongue slips and she ends up accidentally admitting that she, at the very least, knew that fucky shit was going on with Toasty and the miners in the FCK, and she just left the server without saying anything. Did I mention that this was known as early as 2020? The call proceeds onward with the mounting pressures on Suzy, causing her to spurg out and constantly interrupt people to explain herself. Around an hour in, she finally realizes how much of a colossal fuck-up it was to just admit that she knew the whole time, and tried to act like she accidentally got the timeline mixed up, and that she really had no idea what was going on. There are many small lies throughout her amorphous testimony, but all in all, she definitely knew who Slamurs was due to her positively ranking Pondersprocket's video on Madame, which clearly states Slamurs is aged multiple times.
Slamurs, however, is 15 years old. However, I would like to make note that Slamurs is 15.
Two last details to note was that not only did Doodles post her art inside of the Slamurs NSFW chat, but that she was also present during a prior drama involving the FCK, wherein a few users were fighting over someone having posted Shotokan of OKKO characters in chat, and that user having threatened to leak what was going on. The same drama Nezimonster had tried to cover up for. This user casually drops that those same people complaining seemingly had no issue with porn being spammed at and around minors inside of the FCK.
So I remember there was the Ben Looney stuff.
Yes, that's right. Sometime around 2020, 4 years before everything came to burn, the seeds were planted right in front of everybody. And yet, Akumu was the one to break the story. The apparent internet villain. Doodletones had witnessed this, acknowledged it, and said nothing. Her excuse? She didn't know what to do.
Well,
and from what I remember, again, all of that was happening in a chat that I was not in. So I didn't know exactly what to do in a situation like that. So I'm not
didn't
sure.
know what to
like,
do.
I understand.
Okay, that's the reason.
I didn't.
I was asking like why.
It's like.
The commentary channel, whose focus shifted into accountability, policing, and internet justice, just around this exact time, didn't know what to do. To be clear, it's not like anybody's asking Doodles to fucking dox and kill all the creeps in the server or whatever. I mean, she would also have to take herself out if that was the case. But like, I don't know, if I was 23 years old and found out a server full of my friends was up to disgusting rancid activities involving children, I think I'd have enough of a problem with it to at least do something with that information. If you can't go to the police, the least you could do is hand the info off to someone who you think is willing and capable of dealing with it. I mean, there can't be literally nobody she knows that fits that description. All of this to say that the moral policing and virtue signaling is fake as fuck, and she obviously doesn't find activities like this to be concerning. This will be made much more obvious later. So what had happened afterwards? Eventually, the victims of the FCK heard what Doodle had admitted to, and under the wing of Laka, had collectively decided that they would like to see Doodletones make like an egg and scram, you know, take a long hiatus from the internet, alright, go for a fucking walk.
Get the fuck out of here.
This came in the form of finally doing the right thing, uploaded on May 23rd, 2024. Wow, amazing stuff. Why don't we all just give Doodle the fucking Nobel Peace Prize award while we're at it? Can I just say, this fucking image is just so fucking funny. Like, she really thinks she's fucking Batman, hanging up the fucking cowl or some shit. Like, what the fuck?
Laka told me that the FCK victims felt hurt by what I've had to say and what I've done up to this point, and their request of me is to step away, at the very least for a long time. But I've done too much damage already, and I'm sorry. I was rather shaken up prior to that point, as you'll hear. I won't deny I've been melting down a lot about this situation.
If you are going to go with those terms, I do know that you're not going to be online for a little while. So, is there anything you need to say?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
All of those are fair. I was actually planning on leaving my platform anyway at this point, because I don't think I can handle it. Because I feel like you also deserve an apology. I'm sorry for what I had said in that initial call. I'm sorry that I kind of just played it off as if nothing happened. I'm sorry that I was dishonest, and that, you know, if you felt like I had lied to you, then I'm sorry that I lied to you. I want to apologize to those victims. I didn't...
Take a moment to breathe. Take a moment to breathe. Alright? I don't want... You don't...
No, but I just hate...
Just breathe.
I just hate how I've been fucking everything up left and right. I didn't mean to use any of the victims for, like, a shield or as a defense.
I wish you well on your endeavors, and try to have a better day.
Alright.
Get the fuck! But really, though, respect your opponent at all times. Fuck you!
So she leaves, or rather leaves. She was asked to leave. She said she would, but she never actually left. Not only was she still active in Lyle Convoy's community and still inserting herself into drama, but Doodles had already got the sense that it was going to be her turn to fry. So she created a fucking alt account called Dawn Told Stories, literal days before the final Locka call. This is fresh new info, hot off the presses, revealed in June of 2025 by Chuli. She basically created a new persona, new channel, made content, participated in communities, and is still going by Dawn Told Stories in Discords related to gaming and coding right now. A server whose moderators were made aware of this freak's presence and decided to fucking protect them. A server that allows children in it, as well as explicit adult conversations to be had and directed at minors. More on this later. Technically, there's a rule against it, but it's not like they fucking enforce it. You might be thinking, I'm going too far by putting this shit on blast. I mean, so long as she minds her own business, who cares, right? I want to reiterate, I don't think Doodletones is a child predator, but I think by the end of the video, you will agree with me that this person should stay the fuck away from spaces with children. I mean, just based on how she handled the FCK, they clearly see nothing wrong with children and adults acting sexually towards and around each other. And to think, this wasn't even the first time she did something like this.
Initiating FTL jump to
the Cloud Palace.
System.
To summarize this situation, Cloak and Dagger was a series of calls wherein select nefarious individuals of the Cloud Palace were grilled for knowing that a guy by the name of Vigil was still actively friends with an ex-Cloud Palace member and child predator V Omega. V's victims were still in the Cloud Palace, which obviously can create some concern. Underneath that surface reveals that Doodletones sacrificed members of her community to protect her own image and to prevent any eyes from getting curious as to what was going on in her server. And believe me when I say, an audit to this bitch might as well be getting shot in the face. Specifically, the videos in relation to this situation are Cloak and Dagger, A Cloud Palace's Tale, posted in July of 2023 by Doodle, and the follow-up video uploaded on Lyle's channel, The Price of Silence, a slideshow commentary tale, in August of 2023. Fucking ironic titling. Like with the FCK, I'm going to try and keep names to a minimum as to avoid confusion and keep things zeroed in on Suzy. Trust me, there are like 15 glup shittos introduced into every drama she gets involved in. I'm doing you a favor.
There's somebody else here. We should be able to unmute. Easy. Anything you want to say to these clowns?
I only really have a few things.
Oh my god, who the fuck is this? Is this Nega Doodletones? What the fuck? Who the hell is this? Pink Robot is a slideshow commentary channel, much like Suzy. Unlike Suzy, as far as I could see, this person kept their nose clean and didn't really associate strongly with the community, mainly keeping to themselves. For some reason, they had been reached out to, specifically by an ex-member of the Cloud Palace, who was a minor. This kid had testified that the Cloud Palace was not only still harboring people who were openly friends with the child predator V Omega, but minors were told to shut up and not talk about it by the user in question. The user being referenced goes by Vigil. Pink Robot reaches out to Doodletones to kind of interrogate them about what this whole thing was about. And Suzy apparently found this information to be shocking, as she and many other users just, assumed Vigil at a random nondescript point in time stopped being friends with V for some reason. Suzy reaches out to Vigil to ask if he was still friends with V, and the DMs of this confrontation were included.
Pink relayed those concerns to me. I played messenger between Pink, Buggy, and Vigil myself, and so Pink brought up a pretty cogent point.
See, what's funny is that Suzy not only doesn't read out her convo with Vigil, but she, quickly flashes these screenshots on screen as a means of feigning transparency, when every other screenshot has a significantly longer pause on it. What's the fucking rush, Suzy? The video is only 2 hours long. You're not going anywhere anytime soon. If we slow it down a little bit, we can read the message from Vigil that says the following. Not to be rude or anything, but didn't you know I was already friends with V for a while? I've been vocal about it. And heck, at some point, I told people to not have conversations about V because it made me uncomfortable. Even in the Cloud Palace as well. You all respected that. Why are you approaching me about this now? And you know how Suzy responds? By not denying it at all and kindly letting Vigil know that Pink Robot was onto him. How generous. But it gets better!
Pink brought up a pretty cogent point. Why would you keep someone who openly associates with a known groomer in your group? Well, when you word it like that, yeah.
Holy fucking shit. Eureka. We've discovered that it's actually bad to keep people like this around minors. Who would have thunk it? Doodles, realizing where this was probably going, went into self-preservation mode and suddenly decided to act like she didn't know if Vigil was friends with V, and faked this by asking him if they were still friends, to which the obvious was reiterated. But another interesting nugget from Doodle. So, would you mind talking about this in a VC? Because I don't want to just chuck you out. But if this is, in italics, is becoming a thing, we probably should discuss. If this is going to become a thing. Very, very fucking odd verbiage. What followed afterwards was Vigil voluntarily leaving the server. Yes, he did not get kicked. He left of his own free will. Suzy makes a post announcing what had happened, and that's when... Gulp. As it turns out, some people knew Vigil was friends with V the whole time!
Relayed what information I could to the rest of the palace, and that's when we learned that some people knew about this and said nothing.
Dun dun dun. Crazy stuff. Yeah, I feel like I don't need to state how fucking stupid this whole thing is. It's made even more mind-boggling how nobody outside of this obvious sweep job clicked the pieces together and called this out. Then again, this is the ACC. Everyone is diabolically autistic. Maybe they just didn't realize? I don't know. I mean, like, you really need zero hindsight to come to this conclusion. I'm basing it entirely off of Suzy's first video. Anyways, a couple of people get rounded up to get grilled by Doodle, Keaton, and Lyle Convoy, because of course he inserts himself into the situation. However, I will say his involvement does make for an interesting conundrum for Doodle to handle. If Lyle got a whiff that she and everyone else on the server had known what was going on, it might actually cause some problems. Unfortunately, like I said, Lyle is a part of the ACC, thus is fucking retarded, and seemingly never bothered reading the logs between Pink Robot, Vigil, and Suzy. He just blindly took her word for it, all while having the loudest bravado in the call.
Look, I was just... Hold on. I want to address something. If the only time you find your tongue is when the man is speaking to you, you got some issues to address. I told you you are going to respect Suzy the same way you respect me. Find your tongue!
I will!
But it gets even more fucking stupid. In the call, one of the members being put on trial literally points out that not only to his knowledge, everyone in the server knew, but that he had told Suzy about this information directly, months prior to any of this shit. And you know how Suzy responds?
And I was under the impression most people knew. The thing, though, is that I did tell people. The people that I did tell, though, have essentially told me that they just don't remember me saying it to them.
Who did you tell?
Apparently I was one, but I didn't remember.
And Lyle just takes his word for it. No, I'm dead serious. He takes the guy's word for it, and nothing happens. No questions are asked to Suzy, no tonal shift, not a fucking decibel. Edit, I spoke to Lyle about this since writing, so I want to be fair and at least give his reasons as to why he didn't do anything here. More or less, the point was to use the guy's own standards against him to point out why he was in the wrong to say nothing, regardless of whether or not what he said was true or not. However, I do still hold firm on the stance that Lyle completely fumbled here. The allegation was made that Suzy had known for months, multiple times, and it just wasn't looked into at all. Which, I don't know about you, but that significantly changes the narrative being formed in these calls. There was zero actual interest in any resolution. It was a complete shit show. But they did at least get one guy to crash out, so that was funny at least.
Yeah, you're remembering what I told you, didn't you? I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear impulsive. I want an apology from you!
I'm sorry, Ellie! I'm sorry I ever told you to kill yourself! Sorry for talking behind your back!
What had happened after this call is really not that important. The follow-up 6-hour video was just content farming on the well-established moral crusade. Essentially, the takeaway of this situation is that this is a prime example of how Suzy will lie and manipulate people to protect her own ass, even if it means sacrificing people she considered friends. I mean, these people were practically villainized overnight and chased out of the community. Granted, none of these people are saints. They all fucking suck in their own special way. But still, how fair is it that they burn when everyone else gets to walk? This was all because they were more honest about what they knew than others. And no, I'm not just talking about Doodle. Hayton also knew, and recently tried to deny this by saying she didn't read the thread where people were talking about Vigil and V that she had posted a reaction image in. It's honestly fucking despicable behavior from everyone involved. And to be clear, I don't give a fuck that Doodles is a bad friend. That's not the criticism here. The criticism is the blatant hypocrisy and attempt to cover up shady actions to avoid being hung by your own tabard. It's pathetic slimeball shit. So, all of this happened sometime around 2023, right? What if I told you that not 2 years before this incident, Suzy did something far worse than just be friends with an exposed child groomer, but actually had a year-long plan to smear the victims as liars and made them apologize to the pedophile that groomed them? For narrative's sake, I think it helps to understand the story by starting at the end. Julie was someone who I mentioned earlier, and up until this point they have been relatively uninvolved with the narrative. That's because in the meantime she was dealing with her own run-in with the ACC's greatest hits. When she was a minor, she had a run-in with a lot of creeps and freaks. Avi Haltman, the name Junkie, and even V Omega to name a few. Her story as a whole is another saga on its own. Essentially, she had tried to call this stuff out initially, but much like with the minors in this situation, she was attacked and ostracized. Silenced, if you will, and there's that ironic titling that we love so much. Thankfully, Julie didn't take things lying down and actively push back against the narratives that were being formed around her, and she eventually was rightfully recognized as having been abused, groomed, and attacked by members of this community. After her abusers tucked tail and ran, Julie would go on to find that she wasn't the only one, and that the ACC had a pattern of hounding children who were victims of grooming and other forms of abuse. Ultimately, this all leads up to the preamble of this situation when Julie decided to confront Doodletones on her video about someone called Neko Koda. This is yet another 9 fucking hour-long video! And you know, I've come to enjoy doing gay little investigations into niche things in my spare time, but at some point it turns into an esoteric Chinese torture method of a bygone era. I ain't watching it. Thankfully, Julie did, and her main issue with the video was that part of it blasts shitty/weird things Koda did as a minor, and argues that it's unnecessary as it trivializes the abuse people go through. Now, obviously, I disagree with the premise. I wouldn't have mentioned Doodletones' past if I didn't. Almost everything posted online publicly is free pickings to mention and even make fun of. The only exception I could think of is like if some dumbass kid doxes themselves or illegal material is posted. Obviously shouldn't be echoing that stuff out there. Notice how I didn't have to scream, cry, or get fucking bitchy at Julie for disagreeing. Suzy's response to the criticism was to lash the fuck out and start spurging in the VC.
Yeah, when it comes to the comparison, yeah, it wasn't a particularly tasteful comparison. But also,
downplaying it.
Are we just not... I'm not fucking downplaying it! If you listen, if you let me fucking finish, if you let me explain myself, I was going to say, are we even going to question, like, why the comparison was made?
Act like they're abusers. It is not fair to compare them to them, especially when that person sexually assaulted them while they were underage, and then turn around and say, well, it wasn't the most tasteful thing. Suzy, if you did that to me, I would never forgive you.
I really don't like the implications you guys are putting upon me. I really don't like the fact that you guys are even, like, even kind of implying that I did so out of malicious intent.
We're not saying that you did it out of malicious intent. We are, though, saying that it is not good.
You guys literally are!
As funny as it may be, her response was bizarrely aggressive, and it seemed like she didn't take criticism too well in regards to how she handles cases of abuse. So Julie, naturally, kept digging. When Julie used to date Avi, he had downplayed his grooming of her by comparing what he did to disproven allegations made towards George Raccoon, who was vindicated by Doodletones, causing her to lower her guard. After adding up all the events, something didn't make sense. If what Avi did was discovered to be grooming, then what does that say about George Raccoon and his allegations? So she goes back into Doodletones' catalog and finds the video that would single-handedly destroy whatever grace Suzy managed to recuperate since the FCK. Can we please talk about George Raccoon, uploaded on June 28th, 2021? And very much so with Cloak and Dagger, the fact that this video was scrutinized to hell and back upon its release speaks to the level of diluted idolatry within the ACC. This is the video where Suzy defended a child predator and maliciously smeared the victims as liars. The video was then passed around in the SEC courthouse, which led to victims giving their testimony as to what had happened, realizing that they were gaslit by the Cloud Palace as a whole. Suzy was then confronted in a series of calls on Lyle's channel, eloquently titled The End of Suzy Doodletones, released on May 30th, 2025. And for once, the titling is deservedly poetic, as it resulted in the literal end of her channel and George Raccoon vanishing. Bazinga! You'll see why that's ironic very soon. The story goes something like this. In 2017, George Raccoon had reached out to a trans-masked person by the name of Leo on Twitter. Leo was 14 at the time. George was 22. It's made worse considering the fact that contact was initiated on his NSFW account. Technically, it was NSFW-ish, as he put it, but a portion of his postings was in sharing his fetish of magic tricks. All of this can be seen in his pinned tweet to said account. Leo at the time found it odd that George had reached out to him on his NSFW-ish account, but decided as long as he kept the convo safe for work, there shouldn't technically be any issue. Again, 14 years old, can't really blame Leo for being naive. But why did George reach out to Leo? Because of their shared interest, particularly in Snow White. George, fancying himself as an artist, asked Leo if he could draw him in a Snow White dress. However, Leo was also friends with someone who knew George by the name of Safi. Safi and her partner at the time, Autumn, had their own run-in with George when they were minors, wherein Safi pieced together that George's interest in Snow White was fetishistic. In Leo's doc, we can't see how Safi came to this conclusion on their own end initially, but trust me, it will be made obvious very soon. So Safi told Leo to tell George not to draw him in the dress because it was highly inappropriate for him to do that. George obliges, but not without literally crying in Leo's DMs about feeling guilty for having put him through that experience. And thus, a disgustingly effective precedent is set. So George fucks off. He fucks off for a long while. 2 whole years to be exact. After that, he comes back trying to reconnect with a now 16-year-old Leo. George is 25. And more importantly, Safi is out of the picture. According to Leo and Safi, they had a minor falling out around that time, and Safi was one of the only people involved in trying to protect Leo. In Leo's doc about his experience with George, which I covered, linked below, he suspects that George somehow heard of their fallout. This is because only after a week of reigniting contact, George suddenly announces that he will be drawing Leo in a Snow White dress, with not an iota of hesitance. We can see relevant snippets of their conversations in the doc. Leo wasn't able to get all the screenshots because, at the time of gathering evidence, George would be deleting things. What is provided, thankfully, is more than enough, as not only does Leo have evidence for almost every single major claim made against George, but we can also see that Leo is clearly a socially submissive person. He more or less gives mediocre, one-worded responses to George's fixations, and according to himself, he doesn't like telling people no. Especially when he knows that person will get very, very upset if he does, and George takes full advantage of that. Eventually, their interactions evolve beyond just drawings as George begins asking Leo to send pictures of himself dressed up in, you guessed it, a Snow White dress. Leo says that he can't wear it as the only dress that he has was from when he was 5 years old. George keeps pushing, asking him to try harder and that he believes in him. Now, reading these interactions in particular, we can see Leo almost gleefully playing along with George's demands, and you might think that hurts the argument that it made him uncomfortable. And I just want to say, hold on to that doubt, because shortly you will see what happens when George doesn't get what he wants, and why exactly Leo might have feigned interest. Everything George's seen and talking about in the DMs is entirely centered around his interest and what would make him happy. I don't want to state the obvious, but considering what follows, I kind of have to. This is textbook grooming. There is a creeping normalization of these demands, and unfortunately, it would evolve beyond just the dresses. Speaking of, George and even Doodle argue that he does not have a Snow White kink. However, they would also have to contend with the fact, as mentioned earlier, not only did George already concede that it was inappropriate for him to draw Leo in the dresses back in 2017, but George also starts talking to Leo about magic tricks, very casually as he talked about Snow White shit. Maybe he wasn't particularly in a sexual mood for magic. Yeah, well, he starts specifically mentioning a tablecloth trick called the Dakota chair, sending links to videos of this trick and persistently pestering Leo to watch it. This trick is also given particular attention in his pinned tweet. He specifically spells out that he finds this same Dakota chair trick to be arousing. He even draws Leo acting out this trick, and messages are shown of him admitting to doing it. Also, as he's sending these videos, he apparently felt the need to tell Leo that he is wearing a Snow White dress. I'm being dead serious. Both of these fucking clowns tried to deny it was a fetish. Now, some might be thinking, why would he be denying it? I mean, he isn't hiding his weird magic kink on that profile. Why hide this one? Complete speculation, so take it as it is. But isn't it odd, out of all the Disney princesses to fixate on, he chooses the one that is canonically 14 years old. Speaking of which, what are the fucking odds that he is specifically asking minors of a similar age bracket to dress up specifically in Snow White dresses and drawing them in said dresses? To further demonstrate the point, consider this lineup of iconic Disney princesses. Out of every single character, Snow White is the only minor. Let that sink in. Skipping ahead a few months, and all this comes to head when Leo finally decides to assert his boundaries. He recently started talking to his friends about how George was making him uncomfortable, and they encouraged Leo to stand up for himself. He does this by first unfollowing the NSFW account. George immediately noticed and frantically starts asking if he was making Leo uncomfortable, almost as if he knows he's pushing boundaries. And Leo lies to soften the blow, saying that he had just realized that considering he was still a minor, it might not be appropriate for him to be following an NSFW account. He even blames himself for making this error. So right then and there, a boundary is set. And what does George do? George doesn't get what he wants, so George decides to push. I felt very anxious, like I might have done something wrong, but I'm relieved. I loved sharing magic videos with you, and I hope I can still do so moving forward. Leo digs his heels and be a little bit more honest. He says that the magic videos made him uncomfortable for a while due to it being George's fetish. He even points out that it felt like George was trying to get him into the fetish, because he was. But he also makes sure to clarify that he was not accusing George of anything and that he believes it might have been miscommunication. Maybe he didn't intend it that way. He did. He even adds extra courtesy cushioning by saying that he loves him as a friend and that he deserves honesty. And George, initially, seems to have taken it well. But then not 30 minutes later, comes running back into the DMs to start guilt tripping. Well, I don't see that in the DMs. I mean, he's seemingly distraught, but it ain't nothing major. See, what followed after this exchange was him updating the status of his Twitter and him acting like he's going to fucking kill himself. All because why? Because Leo set a boundary. That is all. What he's doing is basically the equivalent of someone expressing their discomfort with him being handsy and him deciding to start violently punching himself in the head multiple times, screaming about how sorry he is. Just FYI, he's doing all this to his 16-year-old as a 25-year-old fully grown adult. At no point in the conversations provided did Leo even remotely imply that he was going to blast the allegations and ruin George's life. What he did do is not want to think George was the bad guy. Leo, understandably, begins to panic, and according to him, it took 3 hours for his friends to eventually calm him down. Right before bed, Leo decides to tweet that he was tired and couldn't take any more of the stress he was feeling that night. But before he could get a fucking wink of sleep, he sees a frantic barrage of messages from George. I told you not to feel any guilt. I wrote that message when I was feeling like shit, mainly because I needed to be away. Please don't hurt yourself because of me. You're not an asshole for telling me that I made you feel uncomfortable. You had the right to let me know. Please, don't do this to yourself. The last thing I would want is to see you in pain. You wanted to look out for me. You're not in the wrong. I'm sorry I made you panic. I don't want to make you leave. I made myself leave. I messed up. Please don't feel bad. I'm sorry. Now tell me that doesn't read out exactly like a man trying to reel back in his grooming victim to get them to shut up. I mean, how the fuck else do you read something like this? The mere notion that Leo spoke publicly about being panicked sent this fucking psycho into overdrive. It was an arguably blatantly manipulative play, and it almost worked. Fuck you, stop sneezing, bitch. I'm gonna fucking zap you. I'm gonna zap you with my fucking fictional invisible electric collar. See, because at this point, Leo was dead set on letting bygones be bygones and ending his friendship with George unceremoniously. His aim was just to say that he needed space and that maybe they could talk in a few weeks, to which further responses would have been ignored. Leo also took the opportunity to tell George that the dress shit also made him uncomfortable and that after speaking with friends, they had accused George of potentially grooming. It ultimately was just best for them to take a long break from each other. So what we have here is a 25-year-old covertly narcissistic piece of shit who has no qualms with involving multiple minors directly into his fetish. He takes boundaries as an invitation to rape them out of people through persistent guilt tripping and has the gall to go as far as suicide baiting to get what he wants out of kids. There are screenshots and testimony from multiple minors to back up all of these assertions. Not enough to think this guy's a grooming freak? Well, ladies and gentlemen of this amazing jury, there was one final message from George that I would love to bring particular attention to. You see, the defendant had literally admitted it. Your fucking eyes do not deceive you. He straight up admits to grooming this kid. So with everything being virtually dead to rights, how the fuck did Suzy manage to vindicate this admitted child groomer back into a community full of children? I believe there was a multitude of factors that went into this. Number one, Suzy had waited almost 2 whole years to officially cover this. People's memories of this situation were rusty. It was rusty enough that arguably all she had to do was omit key details to aim the narrative in a certain direction. She did initially talk about it in 2019 on a live, but due to a negative reaction she got from one viewer, she decided to lay low and play the long game. Number two, the drama was insanely niche. I mean, look at the views on this video. It'll speak for itself. If commentary was an umbrella, the SEC would be at the hilt. There's not enough people who are willing to fact check other people's content because of the lack of eyes on it in the first place. Simply put, lower viewed videos aren't to get as much pushback. It also doesn't help that the community was also a massive echo chamber with Suzy at the top. Both of these factors tie into the next one, which is number 3, lying. She straight up lies multiple times about what is provided in Leo's doc, as well as disgustingly downplays what had occurred between him and George. There's no easy way to shorten the sheer amount of lying and bullshittery in this video. Believe me, I've tried. Yen's video is very encompassing of the subject, and if you want an in-depth breakdown, I would highly recommend giving it a view. Essentially, in the simplest TLDR I can manage, she denies what George did as grooming, blames the minors for not asserting their boundaries sooner, says that because what George did wasn't a one-to-one comparison to what V Omega did, that he can't possibly be grooming, heavily implies that Leo was maliciously misled because one of the people pushing the allegations to the forefront was outed as a predator themselves, who then killed themselves via self-immolation. I wish I was fucking kidding. She at one point grants that even if he did have a dress king, that it would only be grossly irresponsible. She maliciously frames Leo's allegations that George sent pics of him wearing dresses as one of the biggest claims, and that because Leo doesn't have screenshots of this, it hurts the credibility of the entire allegations. She lies about Leo not mentioning that George says dresses were a kink when that was even acknowledged at the start of both Leo's doc and even Doodletones' own video. There's that force of habit again. She acknowledges that George sent videos of magic, but could only call it arguably creepy, then immediately couches it with George had a mental breakdown, so he probably didn't intend to groom Leo, ergo not grooming. She never mentions the fact that George had suicide baited on Twitter. Yes, this was never mentioned. And finally, she gives us the answer to the question that we're all probably asking at this point. Why did George admit to grooming? Because he was self-destructing.
He asked what he could do to make things better besides not grooming, showing that the accusation was something he even believed. And personally, this is my least favorite part of Leo's document. George was apologizing for everything that Leo had taken issue with. Sure, George's apology was self-destructive. As I said, he did have a habit of doing that. However, George also, at the end of the day, understood that the two of them needed time apart. Why was this looked at as a groomer trying to get with a child?
Go fuck yourself!
Sorry, Doodle. That excuse didn't work for Zero, and it's not gonna fucking work here, stupid bitch. This is genuinely one of the most malicious smear pieces I've ever seen in my fucking entire life, bro. She was only willing to concede on 2 points. George shouldn't have reached out on his NSFW account, and that him sending videos of magic wasn't exactly okay, but because he relentlessly apologized for it, it wasn't grooming, as grooming requires intent. As if grooming is only grooming when a child sends nudes or gets raped or something, retard. Okay. Reason number 4. Suzy had been planting the seeds for George's return since the start of the controversy. This is made particularly evident in Yen's video, where she got access to Doodletones' DMs with George. This is where we can see her openly admitting to actively trying to warm people up of the Cloud Palace to George's innocence and subsequent return.
And it's not like everyone hates you. The Cloud Palace just kind of hopes you've been doing okay since then.
Really?
Yeah, I was talking to them about it a few days ago. One person in there in particular would really like to meet you, actually.
Who?
Mansvega Ventinov.
Oh.
Fairly new commentator. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I saw them once in a comment on one of my videos. They said it was fine for me to like Snow White in a comment.
Oh, well, yeah, he doesn't seem to have any qualms with that situation. Again, I personally thought from what I saw, at worst, you were seriously irresponsible with the Not Safe for Work account.
I definitely was. I shouldn't have given it to Leo, Gwen, or Autumn.
It's why I'm keeping in contact. Irresponsibility is a different monster from grooming.
Okay, how many times does this fucking freak need to reach out to minors and give access to his NSFW for this stupid fucking bitch to realize there might be intent? Dude, and just, like, read this dumbass shit. Doodle, I will ask though, if you don't mind, why did you let minors on your NSFW? George responds, because I thought they might like the magic videos I sent them. Oh, so he reached out to the minors on his NSFW because he wanted to directly involve them in the thing he said was explicitly his fetish. And I can already hear someone thinking, was this before or after her video? It was before, by like a whole fucking year. I'm just fucking, oh my god, I'm fucking geeked out right now. I've gone feral. You can read the rest if you desire, but essentially she digs in her heels and says that she won't change her mind. Deeper into the DMs, we can also see her mentioning having spoken to specific people in the Cloud Plus, actively trying to warm people up to George. So no, it's not even remotely speculative. She's just gaslighting her audience into believing he's innocent. This is made especially clear in her 2019 stream. Already covered that, link below. And finally, reason number 5. She might have cashed in a few favors. She was also trying to involve larger content creators, one of which is Ponder Sprocket. Now, if you ask me, personally, Ponder doesn't get enough shit for the things she's involved in. But alas, this video is not about her. Ponder was also specifically name-dropped by Doodle in those confrontation calls as having gotten a preview of her video, to which it was given the Sprocket seal of approval, as seen clearly in this comment under the released video. In case you don't know, Ponder is an ACC creator with over 100,000 subs and multiple videos with millions of views. She was also well known for being the mom of the ACC and arguably one of the most well-respected in the sphere. So as you can imagine, her approval of Suzy's video did significant damage to the victim's credibility, as seen here. Which, by the way, not only has Ponder yet to fully address this, but this fucking bitch had the gall to insert herself into the confrontation call with Shuli and Lio to try and shut down the idea that she had approved of what Suzy did, as, go figure, Suzy was keen on dragging anybody down she could with her. Some might say, like crabs in a bucket, like a bucket of crabs. Some might say a bucket of crabs. And to be fair to Ponder, she has denied Suzy's accusations. However, it doesn't help that she literally fucking lied in said confrontation of Suzy.
So I have a question regarding the Horus thing. I've been told that when initially asked about the Horus video, you brought me up saying that you ran the situation by me, but when I checked our DMs, what I found was you telling me that like you brought it up on a stream and you got backlash and asking for feedback. And I told you that you couldn't then, the issue was that you couldn't put the blame on the victim.
Yeah, Ponder, that can't be possible, as you have already seen. Her comment is literally in direct support of the narrative being posed in Suzy's video. And it just gets better from here, because this call had happened on the 24th of May. Her arch nemesis Akumu had made a call out of Ponder's comment on the 21st at 12 a.m. commentary YouTuber hours. 12 hours later, the comment pulls a Houdini and fucking vanishes on a unlisted video, mind you. Maybe she called in a favor from George. We all know that motherfucker loves disappearing acts. Meaning, this fucking retarded bitch, and I cannot emphasize enough, retarded bitch, days before the call, had went out of her way to grab the unlisted link, tried to cover up the fact that she was in support of the video, and had the cojones to try and deny it in the call. But oh, I'm sure this is just another case of ACC brain fog, yeah. She simply forgot she deleted the comment after getting called out for it, and forgot that she never actually confronted Doodletones and victim blaming, and forgot that she was actually in full support of the video on George, crippled dumb fuck. This might feel tangential, but I believe this played a significant role in Suzy's video having gone with 0 questions and rebuttals, twisting the victim's arms into capitulants. Before I move on, I do want to pay particular attention to another detail that honestly makes for a pretty amusing palate cleanser. The process of uncovering and confronting Suzy over her defense of George took place over a week. After the first confrontation call, it was decided that Suzy, due to her pattern of defending freaks in her community, was to hand over both her Discord server and her YouTube channel to be properly dug through. While this might seem unnecessarily invasive, I'm sympathetic to the idea that privacy is simply something Suzy is going to have to afford if she ever wants to have a chance of being redeemed in the eyes of the community. I mean, coincidentally, this was the same kind of stipulation that members of the Cloak and Dagger were put through, having to endure a confrontation for the sake of saving whatever reputation they had left. I mean, it's only fair Suzy gets dealt the same cards, right?
No, I can't laugh yet.
While there was no issue with handing over the Cloud Palace, a decision that would prove pretty self-sabotagey in hindsight. See, how do I put this?
Later on during that weekend after this call, that Suzy messaged me, saying she accidentally deleted her channel.
Yeah, you can't really, you can't do that by accident. It's retard proof. It's actually retard proof, Suzy. You quite literally can't do this by accident. It's retard proof. She would give 2 different excuses for how this happened by accident. The first explanation was that she was trying to delete a separate channel at first. Well, why? Why would she be deleting a separate channel? I don't know. Belial asked, and her reasoning was that if she was being asked to leave the internet as a whole, then there was nothing to really come back to, so she might as well start getting rid of some stuff. And just to be clear, nobody asked her to perma-leave the internet. It's just, well, she can't really expect to belong in a community she actively let get preyed on by pedophiles, enabled the behavior, and try to cover it up. Her second excuse for accidentally deleting the account was given in the follow-up call. It being the only way to give access to the channel was through an email, Suzy would have to give up the login to her personal email associated with her account. It was suggested at the time that she change her email to a throwaway, and it was in that process did, I guess, her finger slipped, and the whole entire account was deleted. Yeah.
Oopsie. Looks like somebody might have fucked up a little bit. I haven't heard an excuse this good since a kid got a virus in Roblox.
Oh my god, Mom! I had a computer virus, and I got scared that I had the virus, and when I was getting out of my chair, my pants were slipping, and I was pulling them up and getting back on the chair. I am serious! I'm serious! I had a virus!
And much like that kid from Roblox, Suzy had a little tiff, a little tantrum, if you will.
We were not looking for your private information. I was also telling you repeatedly that we were looking for you to scrub your information from that email.
It's attached to my personal email.
Make a new one. No retort to that. Interesting.
If I know there's nothing I can say that will convince you that this is fucking extortion! Stay with me.
You have no clue how musical it is to my ears to hear this little fucking wretched little freak start to rage out in this call. Sometimes I find myself autistically entrenched into a drama, and I ask myself, what am I looking forward to? What do I want to see happen in this situation? It's nice to want the victims to have their suffering recognized and awful deeds of the abusers exposed. But then shit like this happens, and the biggest fucking grin spreads across my face. Karma isn't justice, but it sure as fuck does feel like it is sometimes. And so this is the end of the video. The making of this has been long and arduous. With many hurdles overcame, I think we can finally cap this off. Surely, there will be no new information that would come to light in the process of me writing, forcing me to rescript certain parts to add a whole another section to this already long as fuck video. Remember when I said I don't think Suzy is a pedophile? On a brighter note, this segment won't be as long, but it will still have its fair share of deplorable behavior and nuggets of nasty little doo-doo feces. As mentioned earlier, days before being asked to leave, Doodletones had created an alt to continue her trekking of the internet and familiar spaces, when she had promised to the victims that she would not do that, but that's besides the point. She now goes by Dawn Told Stories. Having looked back at her DMs, Truly immediately noticed that Doodletones had changed her username, realized it was an alt of Suzy's, and blasted the info online. Unfortunately, she did not end up sharing this on the DL beforehand, thus, all the content and conversations posted on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube became inaccessible. What we do have access to are 2 things. She is active in a Discord server called Archipelago, although as of recent she's dropped off, and we have access to her new and still public deviant art. You can take Doodletones out of DA, but you can't take the DA out of Suzy. I swear to God, this website attracts degenerates like moths to a flame. Speaking of which, I couldn't tell you why she didn't try and hide this after it got exposed. Like, you'd think someone with the worst case of Butterfingers would have another accident, if you catch my drift. But no, she left her fucking minefield of favorites wide open for the masses to see, which I honestly do not encourage going through. But because I'm a fucking meticulous psycho, I took a glance and discovered that not only does she still have an age-regressant diaper kink, something that she more or less denied in her call with Truly,
People use against me specifically are the fucking stupid goddamn erotic role plays that I did when I was a kid, right? I don't do those anymore. I haven't done those in a decade almost.
But that she was also liking images of what I can only describe as imminent tentacle lolly rape. I'm not kidding.
You guys came at me about it initially, like from
Oh
the
my
conversation.
god,
You
you
guys came at me about it when it sounded
disgusting
like you guys were saying
fox.
that.
I just looked at their fucking favorites. Oh my god. Okay, wait, what? This is new.
It's a fucking horrendous photo with a childlike character having their clothes ripped and nothing but a strip of loincloth covering their privates. Oh, but it's just a drawing. It's a drawing that makes you a fucking pedophile if you're saving this to your profile for your meat-beating convenience. I also want to add that this is not an old favorite. It is one of her most recent. Now, one might also say, well, at least she leaves real kids out of it. That's right. A few months after she had liked that image, a person by the name of Rin made a thread exposing Suzy for having sent Futanari pornography to a 17 and 15-year-old when she was 21. These are notable members of the community, so no, their age was no mystery. She's even collabed with these people on videos. Now, while some might not care about the 17-year-old and call it at most intensely irresponsible and gross, there is still the 15-year-old Lunatic the Gamer who she shared pornography with. As seen in the DMs between Rin and Luna after having discovered this, Doodle had allegedly brought up how she was getting some NSFW drawing of herself and was confirmed to have shared this porn to Luna when they were 15, despite Luna attesting to having not been interested in seeing it in the first place. Now, seemingly, it didn't go beyond this incident. I mean, I'm not going to compare Doodle to George or V because that would be pretty disingenuous. That being said, Juniru being seen here as having received pornography from Doodles as a minor is quite notable. Junie just so happens to be the one to expose V Omega for being a groomer. Not to go in depth into another fucking grooming accusation, but as briefly mentioned earlier in this video, V is known as a child predator due to him pretty overtly grooming multiple kids through pushing their sexual boundaries when he was an adult. Doodles considers V a groomer. Would it shock you that not only did Doodletones know that Junie was being groomed by V the whole time, as it had happened right in front of her face in the Cloud Palace, but she even encouraged it.
Jonah, I will make you regret it. I will make you regret it.
Hashtag Jonah in the butt.
See, the hashtags are not the only thing that Jonah's spreading.
Suzy had made references to looting the Jonah. V was on streams with Doodle talking about his online sexcapades with Junie. And Suzy even joked about Junie being V's rope bunny in a fucking video both her and Junie were collabing in.
I'm sure Sketch would enjoy hearing you become a rope bunny.
This was also when Junie was a minor, might I add. I highly encourage you watch Juniru's video for more info on that subject, and I will cap this saga off with this. Doodletones is not a child predator. At least I hope not. I would classify them in the same category as pyrocynical, someone who clearly did not give a single fuck for the social boundaries we put between adults and children, but was never really seeking out these kinds of interactions with minors. I will say though, with everything being added up, it's hard to look at things in a vacuum when a clear pattern of particular negligence is being displayed. I fear we still have no clue as to the full extent of her sexcapades with minors she surrounded herself with, and thus, I revoke any charity I gave to her throughout this video. You are now likely a pedophile, and I sentence you to staying far the fuck away from kids. Back to the Archipelago server, while her presence within it doesn't seem to be problematic, it just so happened that the server also has its fair share of controversy, and as mentioned earlier, has a bunch of minors in it. Covered by Fenrir of Solaris, this is a server that acts as a sort of coding hub for an application that links in-game items with others, creating this multiversal MMORPG amalgamation. Controversy aside, that's low-key kinda cool. It, however, is unfortunate that the server has decided to deliberately ignore Suzy's actions in prior communities, giving the excuse that what is done outside of the server is not their problem, which to some extent is true. On its face, you can't really demand a server ban someone for something they did outside of the server. I mean, let's say you make adult content for a living. Everything is legal, safe, and fair. Should you now be barred from entering family-friendly places like Disneyland? No, that's not really that fair. As long as you keep your nose clean within the property, you should be allowed to enter. But people aren't asking them to ban based off of outside activity. Given that one's actions can reflect on behavior that they might have, it stands to reason that you wouldn't, I don't know, for an example, let someone who provably doesn't care about social and sexual boundaries of minors into a server that has minors. But Hilo, what's the big deal? The server bans NSFW content outright and even forbids M-rated games from being included in the server's roster. It's moderated. As alluded to during the FCK segment, that was a lie.
Rules against pornography and sexual shit would be enforced, correct? Yeah, they could just casually say piss Mario and come Luigi. Here's a gif of them talking about furry porn. Here's a bit of them talking about sex toys, referencing sex toys or buying it, which is, you know, totally inappropriate, completely inappropriate. By the way, this Dragon Rod person, lead mod. Here's one talking about how their old account was removed because it got rated for lolly content and all this jazz. Just casually talking about lolicon. Here's one talking about the AI dungeon that has a filter that checks for CP, CSEM, where minors can see it. Oh, and you want to know why this exists? It's not explicitly to keep minors out. After Dark exists because of Discord's inconsistent moderation with what they consider NSFW or adult-only content, where some servers can exist solely for extremely raunchy content and never be touched, but then another server can have a single NSFW image get an entire Discord nuked. This is extended to sharing content for games that are rated in specific ways. Regardless of a legality or moral issue as it is, we don't want to risk the entire Discord for something so small. So it's not even to protect minors in their community, it's literally just because they don't want to lose their main Discord server.
The jokes, admittedly, are fairly tame, and the references are passing, but you can also see the line is being tested, and even the lead mod seems to not give a single fuck about BDSM sex-related objects being talked about. So yeah, not a great precedent being set for a supposed child-friendly server. When confronted with this fact, according to Fenrir, they had said this.
Hey, there's inappropriate shit going on in the server, what the fuck? And they basically said, okay, we'll do a better job at that. Whether or not I believe that, I don't fucking know.
Now, being ultimately good faith here, it seems that the moderation team has both a lack of discipline and lack of communication. Some moderators do seem keen on enforcing the rules to some extent, but there are others that are just outright saying talking about sex toy bullshit is fine. Before moving on, I just want to make something clear. I'm not a fan of starting mobs or raids or whatever you want to call it. I think you should leave the server alone. Don't join it trying to start shit. It's full of mostly normal people who don't deserve the hassle. But I can also point out that there's nothing wrong with voicing concerns publicly on a public platform for public eyes and ears to engage with. I more or less agree with Fenrir. The server is harboring an arguably dangerous person, and I'm not personally buying the excuse of we can't ban her if she hasn't done anything in the server. Unless they would, happily host convicted sex offenders in the server. I mean, technically these crimes would have been committed outside of the server, and even if they were given proof of a user's crimes, they still couldn't ban him for the sake of keeping a safe space for minors. That's their own logic. Sorry kids, you're just gonna have to deal with Jared Fogle in the VC tonight. Nothing we could do about that. It sounds ridiculous, don't get me wrong, but I kind of have to ask where the line is drawn if someone of Doodletones' reputation is allowed to exist in this space. I mean, she could just stay in the After Dark age-verified server if you want to keep her that badly. All in all, the server's moderation fucking sucks, and I think they should all get on the same page before someone worse than Doodletones shows up in the server and causes bigger issues. Like maybe the lead mod who's in their 30s into weird anime kid shit. The same mod who at one point had some weird naked slime lolly as a profile picture for all the minors in the server to see. But I didn't manage to get a screen cap of it, so take it with a grain of salt. The same mod who permitted conversations of sex toys as it's not age gated. I know what you are, I just can't fucking prove it. With all that being said, how does one even end this video? You end from where it all started. Suzy Doodletones is a 28, soon-to-be 29-year-old slideshow commentary YouTuber who's been lying to your face since the start. She has a completely fucked moral compass, deciding on a whim to condemn people for things that not only she did, but was significantly more involved with than anybody realized. The people of Cloak and Dagger were publicly burned at the stake for simply knowing a guy was still friends with someone the community recognized as a danger to children. Yet, not only had Doodletones seen what this predator was doing, not only did she encourage it, but she would end up defending another predator, smearing the victims as liars, all because she didn't like the way the community cut him off. Don't get me wrong, we're all hypocrites in one way or another. Nobody is born with the most ideal concept of morals, and we're basically doomed from the start of our lives into violating our own principles at some point, due to our inherently impulsive and imperfect nature. The problem isn't that Doodletones is simply a hypocrite or a liar, but a hypocrite and a liar to such an extent where I argue she's dangerous. She's deceptive about the way she feels about adults and children engaging in sexual interactions out of convenience. That way, nobody thinks to check and see if her shit's up to snuff. She spreads lies about things she has done, maliciously leaves out integral details to stories to mislead people, and when things become too hot to handle, she will torch and burn those closest to her just to get away with it. Even when she's caught red-handed, she will look at you, dead in the face, and tell you her finger slipped and she accidentally deleted her entire channel. Which, by the way, might I add, that was done obviously to cover up unlisted/private recordings she has on that fucking account. I can't prove it, but everyone I know uses their channel as a cloud storage for recordings. Within the little anti-ACC circle that I found myself in, there is a prevailing joke that Doodletones is a mosquito or a gnat because of her voice changer. After digging deep into this person's history, I can only think of the label as ironic, because this whole time, she was a spider. Her place of comfort became this massive interconnected tunnel of lies, set to trap only fools who got too close to her. I'm being a bit pretentious here, but you get the point. And even after everything, her legacy of lies being exposed for all to see, her channel and whatever damning shit she had on there lost to time, and the fact that she still shits her diaper after everything ended the way that it did, she still got away.